show. Now, I think we've all experienced it. Power cuts that last about up to 6 hours. Occasionally, it's not an entire power cut. Your sockets stop working while your lights stay on, or vice versa. Or you go to the kitchen and you can't switch on your microwave oven, but your fridge is working. We've all experienced it at one point or the other. But what's the reason? Is this part of a bigger problem? Can it be a fault that is so widespread that we've all had the opportunity to experience it? What's going on? Let's find out from Ben Boakye, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. Ben, good morning to you.
Good morning, Christian.
Thanks for your time. I guess we just want to know what's the situation with the power sector and why we're having these erratic power supply issues in our homes.
This situation we've been talking about it for some time. And the power sector is not as robust as we need to have it, and therefore we keep having these kinds of challenges. But currently we have some deficit in generation, which is not as significant as it was a couple of months back. We now have about 150 megawatts of load to share. And sometimes because they don't want to tell you, they don't want you to know, they move it around quickly. So you're not going to have a full-blown 12-hour or 24-hour load shared. So they move it around to at least give everybody some comfort. So that's the primary one. And sometimes also, because they are not doing what they have to do, the system gets overloaded. If it's very minimal, say 50, 60 megawatts, they tend to spread it around and the system get overloaded. So you see low voltages in some communities. But I must also say that some of these low voltages may not be as a result of the deficit. It could be a localized problem where maybe a transformer is overloaded because demand has gone higher than what a local transformer can actually get. But the reality is that the system also has deficits that has to be managed. And the way it's been managed from our tracking is that, they're moving it around quickly and creating, an impression that we have enough, but it's virtually not enough.
And the effect of that are these brownouts and current fluctuations that we've all been experiencing.
Yeah, the deficit. If the load is not enough, they have to shed. And usually it has to be done at the GRICO level. And if GRICO is not doing it, then you have the demand being higher than the generation capacity. And that's where you have some of these low voltages in some areas occurring. So sometimes we are operating at the minimum tolerable frequencies, which is not ideal. Because once you operate in those circumstances, you risk even having a complete shutdown of the grid infrastructure in some instances. But that is how it's been managed.
Is this not actually worse? This will obviously damage electrical appliances, unlike if there was a complete power cut, which would last for a finite period of time, after which the lights would come back on, so that people could regulate, switch off their sockets and so. This one is just going to be drip feeding power into these appliances, ultimately destroying their power source. Is this not worse? Should we not be having more clarity from the power suppliers over this?
It's bad at two levels. What it means is that, some productive uses, you can't even put the electricity. So some businesses cannot run at all, because when the voltages are too low, you can't run them. So productivity is affected with that kind of situation. Again, when there are surges, you risk also losing your equipment. And for me, the worst part is that when power is available, it is distributed in a way that makes it difficult to be productive with it. What it means is that you still have the power that you maybe run a lot of losses. You're not optimizing the power that you're actually paying for. And that is the worst part.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that you properly communicate some of these and then share the load and then provide optimal power to those who have it. And then they can actually be productive with that kind of energy.
All right. Now, if you just joined us, we're talking to Ben Boache, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. We're discussing the recent brownouts and blackouts that seem to be plaguing our power sector. Now, Ben, let's look back at the big picture. Why are we still having to shed load? Why are we still having to make up for some 150 megawatts? Did you say 150 megawatts?
Yes, about 150,
yeah,
sometimes 100. Yeah.
That's right. Why? Why do we still have this deficit? What are we doing wrong in the supply chain?
So, as ugly is now, they are still waiting for some monies to be paid by the Ministry of Finance. And that's what we keep insisting, that it's not a job of Ministry of Finance to pay an electricity bill. It's the job of those managing the sector to ensure that revenues can be collected, and then the budget doesn't bear the burden of paying for people's electricity bill. But for the past years, that's what we've been doing, sacrificing the budget to actually pay for the inefficiencies in the sector. To the point where we cannot do it anymore, and all of us know that the government is broke. They don't have the money to pay. If they had the money, they would have paid ASOC, they would have paid for the gas use and the rest. So that is the biggest challenge, where liquidity is the biggest issue. We are not raising enough from the power that we sell. Inefficiencies keep growing in the sector. Poor decisions are escalating at every level. And that is what is actually creating this kind of problem. So we're always living on edge. And I keep saying that even the power that we do have, we have the power because there are some contractual obligations that ensure that the power, stays on. Because for most of the IPPs, except as something was been stretched to shut down, they would try to generate when there is fuel to generate and pile the debt rather than shut down their systems and not, generate any revenue at all. So that's what they've been doing. They keep generating and piling the debt, hoping that at some point government will pay. And they do come in once in a while to pay. And that is terrible to manage a power sector in that manner, where we're just racking up debt and hoping that when we get some money that could have been used to do development, we would rather sacrifice it to pay electricity bills.
Right.
So that's the situation. We keep racking up. We have debt for fuel supplies. In the past couple of months, we had ENI cutting their gas production to the minimum contractual volume, about 171 MMscfd per day, when they could actually do about 240, because we're not paying them. And they didn't want to produce more when they are not getting money.
Yeah.
It's good that now, there has been some intervention. They've gone back to about 210, which has actually reduced the deficit because we now have more gas to be able to generate. But the reality is that we're not going to pay for it. We're going to still keep piling the debt because the sector is poorly managed.
Yeah. So, it used to be 500, 550 megawatts. Now it's 100, 150. Is it going to get worse or better?
As long as government can sacrifice all that we have to be paying the bill, we would be able to get the power sector which is generating and producing the gas. Again, the gas sources are becoming tighter. We need more gas from either Nigeria or, revive our LNG ambitions, which was shelved at the time that we actually needed it. So those are the reality. But you need money to be able to do all of this. And the earlier we're able to revisit that conversation of fixing the distribution side of the industry to make sure that power sold can be collected, efficiency at ECG improving. Without that, we will live with this problem for a long time.
Right. Ben Boache, thank you very much for your time with us. And of course, Mr. Boache is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. Right. So that's the explanation. They don't want to admit that it's load shedding, so they are spreading it around quickly. And the result is this brownout situation, which is damaging people's appliances, especially when you're away from your home, you're at work. By the time you come back, something has blown and you don't understand why.
And these appliances are very expensive nowadays. Absolutely. It's not as if they are going to replace it for you or they have created the environment for you to buy it at a cheaper cost.
Yeah.